Yeehaw! It's Roundup time again, folks. And this time we're looking at USB audio interfaces which feature 8 microphone preamps. The kind of interface that will allow you to record your band, including drums, on a super low budget. And incidentally, if you look in the description under this video on YouTube, you'll see a link there to our tutorial showing you how to record your band super cheap in a rehearsal studio using an audio interface exactly like the ones that we're going to be showing you in this roundup. Now additionally, all of the interfaces we're going to show you in this roundup feature MIDI in out as well as 8 mic or line level inputs. So they're also suitable if you want to set up and run a hybrid computer and external MIDI hardware setup. I'll explain more about how you do this technique at the end of the video if you're not familiar with it. Now, to be included in this roundup, the interfaces must meet the following criteria. They must be a simple tabletop rack mount type design, nothing fancy, so we're not going to include things like mixer interface hybrids or anything like that. They must obviously feature 8 mic preamps, but they also must feature line instrument level inputs, which will allow you to plug guitars and basses directly into the interface and record through your amp modelling software into your DAW. They must have a dedicated speaker volume control and separate volume control for headphones. And they must be under €500, because obviously you can get interfaces with 8 mic preamps costing more than €500, but what we're looking for here is budget solutions suitable for the home recordist. Okay. Now, as usual, I'm taking the choices and prices from Tom Mann's online web store, not just because they sponsor us, but because Tom Mann are a huge shop selling all over the world, and they're a very good indicator for a super low street price. Okay, so here's your choices in ascending price order, starting from cheapest to the most expensive. Okay, first up is the Behringer UMC1820. It has got 2 mic line inputs on the front. Round at the back there's an additional 6 mic line inputs, giving you 8 in total. You can switch any of those 8 inputs between line and instrument level. Okay, then you've got your main balanced 1/4 inch outs here, which feed your studio monitors, labelled output 1, 2, and a further 8 balanced 1/4 inch outs here. You've got SP diff in and out. You can add a further 8 in and 8 out channels via ADAT here, and you have MIDI in out as well. Background on the front again, you've got your main output volume control to feed your monitors here, and you have 2 headphone sockets, each with their own independent volume controls. Okay, and that is the Behringer UMC1820 at €179. Next up, we've got the Tascam US16xo8 or 16xo8. Now, with all the other interfaces in this roundup, you get 8 physical inputs, which can be either mic or line instrument level. But with this Tascam, you get 16 independent physical inputs. Here's your first 8 mic pre-inputs, labelled input 1 to 8. And then you have a further 8 balanced 1/4 inch inputs. The first 2 are on the front here, labelled input 9 and 10. And these can both be switched between line or instrument level using the 2 switches here. Then round on the back you get your further 6 balanced 1/4 inch line inputs, and these can all be switched as pairs between -10 and +4. Down here we've got our 8 balanced 1/4 inch outputs. The first 2, output 1, 2, will feed your studio monitors, and finally we get MIDI in out. There's no SP diff in out on this, and there's no ADAT in out on this. Finally, back round the front, we've got a dedicated volume control here for the monitors being fed from output 1, 2, and you've got only the single headphone socket, but it does have its own volume control. And that is the Tascam US16xo8 at €244. Okay, next up is the Presonus Studio 1824, and with this one you get on the front 2 mic or line level inputs. The line inputs here can be switched between instrument or line level using the switch over here on the front panel. Round at the back you've got your additional 6 mic line inputs, giving you a total of 8, but these 6 on the back cannot be switched to instrument level. Then you've got your 8 dedicated line outs, you've got your main out left right, which is a mirror of output 1, 2. You've got SP diff in and out. You can add 8 further inputs and outputs via ADAT here. And then here we've got a word clock out, although this won't be useful to most people. And MIDI in out. Back on the front, we've got a dedicated volume control for our monitors and 2 headphone sockets, each with their own independent volume control. And that is the Presonus Studio 1824 at €379. Okay, next up, the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20, 2nd gen. And with this one, you get, on the front, 2 mic or line instrument level inputs. These can be switched between instrument and line level with the button here and here, labelled instrument, inst, right? Round at the back, we've got the further 6 mic or line level inputs, but these can't be switched to instrument level. Then over here, we've got 10 1/4" balanced line outputs. The first pair here, labelled 1, 2, will feed your studio monitors. And then here, we've got optical ADAT in out, we've got word clock out, MIDI in out, and SP diff in out as well. Back round at the front, we have a dedicated volume control for your monitors and 2 headphone sockets, each with their own dedicated volume control. And that is the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20 2nd gen at €429. Okay, next up in price, we've got the Roland U10 octo capture, but it's a bit complicated, this one, to be honest. Around at the front, you've got your 4 mic line level inputs. The first 2 can be switched to instrument level. Then round at the back, you've got your further 4 mic line level inputs there. You've got your 8 1/4" outputs there. You've got coax SP diff in out there, and you've got MIDI in out here. But the problem is it's all a bit complicated, and there's only the one volume control for controlling both the headphones and the monitor out, and you switch it between headphones and monitor or just headphones only. It's just all a bit complicated, so I wouldn't really touch this one. But there it is. Okay, now next up we've got the Presonus Studio 1824C. Now this is the same as the Presonus Studio 1824, but it uses USB-C. However, there is a pair of cables included, which I can show you. So in the box you get a USB-C to USB-C connector cable, but you also get a USB-C to USB-A type connector cable as well included, and the unit is fully backward compatible with USB 2 and USB 3. Okay, what do we get with this? Well, on the front we get a pair of mic or line instrument level inputs. Again, like with the non-C version, you switch these to line or instrument level using the switch here on the front panel there. Round at the back we've got the further 6 mic or line level inputs, but these can't be switched to instrument level. Then you've got your 8 dedicated line outputs here. You've got the main output left right that feeds your monitors here. This will be a mirror of output 1, 2. You've got SP diff in and out. You've got ADAT in out to add an additional 8 in and out channels via ADAT. Word clock out, again not very useful for most people, but there it is. And MIDI in out. Back round the front, we have a dedicated volume control for the main outputs for the monitors and 2 headphone sockets, each with their own dedicated volume control. And that is the Presonus Studio 1824C at €479. And finally, last but not least, we have the Tascam US20X20. And with this one, you get, on the front panel, 8 mic or line level inputs. The first 2 will receive instrument level as well, although there's no switching for that. Round at the back, we've got 10 line outputs, which are balanced. The first pair will feed your studio monitors. But we also have an additional pair of balanced line inputs here, which are switchable between -10 and +4. We've got word clock in out here, which won't be useful to most people. MIDI in out. We've got optical ADAT in out here, and we've got SPDIF coax in out here. Okay, back round on the front again. We've got a dedicated volume control to feed the studio monitors, which will be fed from line output 1, 2, and 2 headphone sockets, each with their own dedicated volume control. And that is the Tascam US20X20 at €488. And finally, an honourable mention for the MAudio EmTrack 8. I don't know if this product is being gradually discontinued, but sadly, Tom Mann no longer sells it. This is the audio interface that we used in our tutorial video, linked in the description below, showing you how to record your band on a super low budget in a rehearsal room. And a very good little audio interface it is too, featuring 8 mic line preamps, the first 2 of which can be switched to instrument level to record your guitars and basses direct. So, if you can find one of these, they're really good little units. They usually go for about just under €300 or 249 British pounds. But they're becoming harder to find. As I said, I'm not sure if MAudio are gradually phasing them out in favour of their new EmTrack range, but there it is. So we'll include this in the list as well. But sadly, as I said, Tom Mann no longer sell this product. Okay, well, the budget winner in this roundup is obviously going to be the Behringer UMC1820 at the ridiculously low price of €179. I'm normally a bit reluctant to recommend Behringer products due to past reliability issues the company's had, but at €179 it is super cheap, and every product in this roundup that I've shown you, if purchased from Tom Mann, comes with a full 3-year warranty. So with a 3-year warranty and this super low price, it could well be worth taking a punt on this product. 8 mic line preamps, all of them switchable to instrument level, 2 headphone outputs, dedicated volume control for the monitors. You can expand it with ADAT, MIDI in out, etc. Yeah, it could be well worth taking a punt on this one. So that's the budget winner, the Behringer UMC1820 at €179. But my overall winner for this roundup, the product which I would recommend, is the Presonus Studio 1824 at €379. I'm just really into Presonus products at the moment. And okay, yeah, this thing is €200 more than the super cheap Behringer, but Presonus just seem to bring great quality products to the market at a really competitive price. Because the thing about this Presonus is that you're getting exactly the same features as on the Focusrite, but for €50 less. So really, the only difference between the Presonus and the Focusrite is the subjective issue of which has the better preamps and converters. But that's something I'll talk about in a moment when we do a summing up. So that's my overall winner, the Presonus Studio 1824 at €379. And I just want to say that Presonus don't pay me. I've never even talked to or communicated with Presonus, but I'm just really into their products at the moment. They do fantastic little interfaces, and if you're in the market looking for a pair of studio monitors, I would seriously advise you to check out their studio monitors. They're absolutely fantastic, really, really good monitors, yeah. So, there's my winner. Okay, let's now just talk a bit about these interfaces. In the introduction, I said that obviously you can use these interfaces to record your band, including drums, on a super low budget, because all of them offer 8 microphone preamps. But all these units also offer 8 line level inputs. So the other thing you can do with them is you can use any of them to set up a computer DAW and external MIDI hardware hybrid type studio setup. If you're not familiar with how to do that, let me just explain how that would work. Okay, so let's imagine we're doing this with the Presonus Studio 1824. Here's the Presonus. You've got 2 line inputs on the front, and you've got a further 6 line inputs round at the back, giving you 8 line inputs in total. Okay, next you get a bunch of external MIDI hardware. And then you connect the MIDI out from the audio interface out socket to each of your external hardware units. That way, MIDI coming from your DAW will trigger any of the hardware units on whichever channels they're assigned to. Okay, next we plug the audio line outs from our external MIDI hardware into the 8 line inputs of the audio interface. In this case, at the top I've got the Casio synth plugged into input 1. Below that I've got the Deep Bass 9 mono synth plugged into input 2. Down at the bottom I've got a Novation Supernova with its stereo out plugged into inputs 3 and 4. Then I've got 4 mono outputs from an Akai S950 plugged into inputs 5, 6, 7 and 8. Okay, next in your DAW you create 8 audio tracks and you assign the 8 line inputs to the 8 audio tracks. And then you put your DAW audio tracks into monitor mode. In Cubase, you do it like that. In Logic, you do it like that. So with your 8 audio tracks set to monitor mode, then any signals passing into those audio tracks from the line inputs pass through the tracks in real time to the final stereo output of the DAW, and from there the signal passes to the left-right out of your audio interface, and from there off to your monitor speakers where you hear the synth being triggered. Now, to play and record patterns for the external hardware, you either connect a USB keyboard to your DAW, or you can use a traditional MIDI keyboard plugged into the MIDI input on the audio interface. Okay, so that's how you set it all up, and then the way it works is this. You trigger the external MIDI hardware via the master keyboard, and then whenever one of the external hardware synths makes a sound, its signal travels into the line input that it's plugged into. From there the signal passes through into the audio track assigned to receive on that input. The audio track is set into input monitor mode, so the signal passes straight through the audio track, which is behaving as a mixer channel. The signal passes out of the audio track to the final stereo output of the DAW, and from there the signal passes out of the DAW to the left-right output of the audio interface, and from there to your monitor speakers where you hear the synth being triggered. And that all happens in real time with no latency that you can notice, provided that you set up the audio interface with a low buffer size setting of 32, 64 or 128 samples. And that's how it all works. And of course, as the audio signal from any of the external hardware units passes through its audio track, you can add plug-in effects to that signal, which you'll hear at the output of the DAW in real time, added to the signal from the synth. So you can add reverb, delay, or any other effects you want. And that's how that works. And it works the same in any DAW, Logic, Cubase, Pro Tools, or whatever. All you have to do is set up 8 audio tracks, each of the tracks assigned to receive on each of the line inputs, and then you just have to put all of those tracks into input monitor mode. So the audio tracks are acting, as I said, as mixer channels to just take the signal, pass it through out of the DAW and to the monitor speakers in real time, so you hear the synth being triggered when you play the master keyboard. And then you just record the patterns for the synth that you're playing onto MIDI tracks inside the DAW. And that just leaves one question. How do you make sure that when you're playing the master keyboard, it triggers the correct external hardware unit? Well, that's really easy. When you set up a MIDI track to record onto in your DAW, you simply assign it to the MIDI channel of the hardware unit that you want to trigger. Okay, and that is how you would use an audio interface with 8 line inputs to set up a computer DAW and external MIDI hardware hybrid type studio setup. As you can see, it's actually quite simple. The 8-line inputs feed the signals into the 8 audio tracks which act as the mixer channels, and you can add plug-in effects in real time, as I said. So there's no need to have an actual external hardware mixer to route all your hardware through to. Just plug the hardware units into the line inputs on the audio interface and use the DAW tracks as the mixer channels. It's as simple as that. Okay, so let's finish with a bit of summing up, starting with the sound quality of these units in the Roundup. The preamps, particularly what I'm talking about here, but also the converters that are used make a difference to the sound quality, etc., etc. Now, yes, of course, each of the manufacturers is going to be, you know, referring to their preamps in the most glowing terms in their promotional literature. Focusrite are going to be going on about how great their Scarlett preamps are, and Presonus are going to be talking about how fantastic their X-Max preamps are. And the cheap Behringer, you know, Behringer are going to be going on about it's got MIDI designed preamps, etc. But the truth is, given the price point of these units, and more importantly, given the type of microphones that people are going to typically use with the units in this Roundup, you're really not going to notice any difference in sound quality between the preamps and the converters in these units, okay? They all have pretty much the same dynamic range, they all pretty much have the same signal to noise ratio, etc. So, look, let's just say, leave it like this, let's just say it like this. Maybe if you've got a really, really high quality mic and you recorded a vocal in isolation in a really high quality acoustic space, and then you did a blind listening test, you might notice some subtle differences between each of the preamps in these units, right? You might. But as I said, given the type of mics we're going to be using these, and given the price point, you're really not going to tell any difference between them. So don't think that choosing one over the other is going to give you some fantastic sound quality advantage. That simply won't happen. Okay, next, included software. Well, when I did the Roundup in April of basic 2 input and 2 output USB interfaces, I did list the included software that you get with each unit. And that's because with those kind of basic small interfaces, quite often the sort of person looking to buy one is going to be a first-time recordist, and they won't have a setup, so the included software might be quite relevant. But I think it's fair to say with these 8 mic input type interfaces, most people who are going to be buying these, they've already got some recording experience, so they'll have their DAW software sorted out already. Okay, all of these units will come with a DAW type music software, you know, for doing your recording and everything like that. And some of them also include free plugins, but you can check all that out yourself. All right. Okay, and finally, just to add, because this may be of interest to people, if you're looking to expand your audio interface with more mic inputs via ADAT, then this is actually the unit that I'd recommend. Cheap and cheerful. This is the Behringer ADA 8200, and it costs a staggeringly low €149. Okay. Now, this unit has been around for donkey's years, about 20 years this product has existed. This is the second generation of the product, and basically it's an ADAT expander. So on the front you get 8 mic or line inputs, each with their own gain control. There's a phantom power switch here to activate phantom power for all 8 mic inputs. And then round at the back you've got 8 balanced or unbalanced XLR line outs. And that's it. There's no USB to connect it to your computer or anything like that, because this is an ADAT expander. You connect it via ADAT connectors to your already existing audio interface, and it simply adds an additional 8 mic or line inputs and an additional 8 line outputs. Okay. Now, there's only one thing about this unit. It only works at 44.1 or 48K. It doesn't work at 88.2 or 96K. But that's okay, because at the kind of price point we're working to, we're all recording at 44.1 or 48K anyway. Hardly anybody records at 88.2 or 96 when you're doing multi-track. So, yeah, okay, it's Behringer, and they have had this reputation in the past. Once you've owned one of their units for a while, the sockets or the pots can start to crackle, but Behringer are now offering a 3-year warranty on this and other products. Obviously, you've got to register the product, I'm assuming, once you bought it with them. But if you buy it from Tom Man, just like all the units we've looked at in the Roundup, this comes with a full 3-year warranty. €149 to add 8 additional mic inputs. And then you've got 16 mic inputs. And you can really start to go to town with multi-track recording if you're looking for a bit of a bigger setup. Okay, so there you go. That's your Roundup for 8 mic input USB audio interfaces at the start of May 2019, under €500. And I hope that's useful, and I'll see you for the next one.